Dajjal. And Jesus spoke of his coming, and so did Moses and the prophets before. All the prophets informed their followers of his coming. But since Muhammad ﷺ was to be the last, the description which he gave of Dajjal was crystal clear. It leaves no room for somebody to come along and say, it's America, or it's the television, or the internet. We do have people saying that, but they don't know the deen. There are people ignorant of the texts, the authentic texts of the deen, which make it very clear as to who Dajjal is. Even in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was an individual by the name of Ibn Sayyad who was suspected to have been the Dajjal. And the Prophet ﷺ went with Umar ibn al-Khattab to visit him, to see him. And he had told him to say the Shahada. And that youth, he was a small boy at the time, responded by telling the Prophet ﷺ to say he was the messenger of Allah. And Umar ibn al-Khattab, of course, immediately wanted to decapitate him. Let's finish him off right then and there. But the Prophet ﷺ stopped him. He said, if he was who you think he is, you wouldn't be able to kill him. And if he's not, then it would be bad for the deen, where the Prophet ﷺ was having his companions kill children. So, the very fact that this youth was considered possibly to be the Dajjal, we know then that it is a human being. And there are narrations in which the Prophet ﷺ said, AbuZaid al-Khudri quoted, that the Dajjal would be a Jew. Of course, politically today, to say that, you can be accused of, anti-Semitism and all these kinds of things, but this is the fact of our religion. And because he is a Jew doesn't mean that anything and everything connected to Judaism is evil. It's not saying that. It just says, as the Prophet ﷺ related, that he was a Jew. And he described him as being blind in one eye. His hair would be curly, his feet set apart. Heavy build, a human being. So any claim that he is other than a human being is false. appear from Isfahan in what is now Iran, and he would gather forces behind him and do battle with the forces of the Mahdi, defeating them consistently until they were herded into Jerusalem, where they were besieged, or they will be besieged. These are facts of what would take place. Clear. They're not confused. They're straightforward. However, we have people today who claim that the Dajjal already came or is present amongst us, etc. now, has already started his rule, etc. But Prophet Muhammad ﷺ gave us certain signs that would take place before the coming of the Dajjal. One, the Mahdi, and the coming of the Mahdi, who he described as having the same name as himself, and having the same name, his father's having the same name, so he'd be Muhammad ibn Abdullah, and described him as having a broad forehead and a high nose without a bridge. He described him in this way and spoke about the fact that he would lead the Muslim forces and defeat that of the West, Western civilization. We know it hasn't taken place. So any talk of Dajjal being present now and acting in the world has got to be false. That has not taken place. Also, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ informed us that there would be 3 years of famine prior to the appearance of Dajjal. In the first year, drought, no rain would take place over 1/3 of the earth. We have drought now in Somalia, Ethiopia. 1/3 of the earth, no rain. In the second year, 2/3 of the earth, no rain. In the third year, no rain anywhere on the face of the earth. We haven't experienced that. So we know that the time has not yet come. But we have to be mentally prepared for such a time. We should not treat the information which the Prophet ﷺ gave us lightly. Our children know all the enemies of Superman, Green Lantern, this man and that man, Spider-Man. They know all the enemies, who are the bad guys, by name, what they look like, their descriptions, everything. But you ask them about Dajjal, they have no idea. We have done our children a disservice. They should know Dajjal better than they know the enemies of the superheroes, who are fictitious. They don't exist. They're only in comic books, cartoons. But they made movies of them now too. But in the minds of the children, they're very real. But Dajjal is unreal. we have done our children a disservice. They should know about Ad-Dajjal. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring us back on the correct track. That we don't neglect the education of our children as our education was neglected. That we follow Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in everything that he instructed us, whether it be small or whether it be big, because he is the example for us. He has left the way forward. The Prophet ﷺ had said that know that the time of a Dajjal is near when the Imams no longer speak about it from the minbars. That's why at least once a year I try to speak about it. It is useful knowledge, otherwise Prophet Muhammad ﷺ would not have told us about it. Because the trial of the Ad-Dajjal, as he said, was the worst that human beings would face. A time when there is drought all over the earth. And here comes an individual who will command the skies to rain, and it will rain. When people are suffering, no food to eat, and he will have with him a mountain of bread and a mountain of meat. You want to eat? Then believe in him. That's what he will command the people to do. The Prophet ﷺ had said that there would be after him a number of Dajjalun. All of them claiming that they were messengers of Allah. We know about them. There's a Ghulam Ahmed, Musaylama in the past, and others. But Al-Masih al-Dajjal is not going to claim that he is a messenger of Allah. He is going to claim that he is Allah. And if you are starving to death and you are given the option, accept that he is the messenger of Allah and you can eat, you can survive, reject and die, what are you going to do? This is the trial. Life and death is involved. And the Prophet ﷺ said that he would cut a man in half, walk between the halves and tell the halves to come back together again, and the man would come back living. He would tell another and others, if I bring your parents back to life, will you believe that I am God? And if we believe that only God can bring life back to the dead, it's conceivable that we'll say, sure, if you can bring my parents back, my dead parents back to life, then I will accept your God. And he will command 2 from the jinn possibly, of that grandfather and your mother and your dad who died. And they would appear, become visible, in the form of your father and your mother, speaking as they spoke, looking as they looked, telling you, believe in him, my dear son. Believe in him, for he is God, Allah. How will we be at that time? What will be the state of our faith? If we are ignorant of all of these happenings at that time, we will not survive. This is why Prophet Muhammad ﷺ gave us this information. To renew our faith for that time to come. To constantly be engaged in renewing our faith, because faith goes up and it goes down. So that we don't get caught at that time when it is down, Dajjal appears and we end up as one of his followers. So Dajjal will barricade the forces of the Mahdi in Jerusalem. The time for Fajr prayer will come, and Prophet Jesus will descend, wearing 2 white robes and with his hands on the wings of angels as he descends in Damascus, near a white minaret. From there he will go to Jerusalem to join the Fajr prayer. And when he comes in, the Mahdi had stepped forward to make salah. He saw him, or will see him, and begins to step back to allow Prophet Isa to lead the prayer. But Prophet Isa will stop him and make him lead the prayer, saying that it is Allah's destiny that you would lead yourselves in prayer. Your imams would be from among yourselves. And after the prayer, he will have the gates of Jerusalem open. The forces of Dajjal will burst in. The forces with the Mahdi will engage them in battle. Prophet Isa will be in the middle. He will spot the Dajjal. The Dajjal will see him, start to run. He will chase him, catch him, and kill him with a spear, lifting the spear up afterwards, showing the blood of a Dajjal and confirming his defeat. Dajjal will be defeated by Prophet Isa alayhi salam. And following that, as the forces that fought along with him, etc., are jubilant and the word spread, the defeat of Dajjal, in that period, Prophet Isa will be informed that Allah has released another people, another evil force that has been attempting to enter into this world upon human beings for generations. It will be the people known as Al-Ma'juj and Al-Ya'juj wal-Ma'juj, the Gog and the Magog. prevented them from overrunning the earth will come down by Allah's permission. And they will spread over the earth and defeat all of the forces in their wake. And Allah will inform Prophet Isa that the only safe place that you will be able to find is Mount Tur. Now there's Mount Tur in Sinai, and there's also Mount Tur near Jerusalem. There are two mountains carrying the same name. He would seek refuge there with forces that remained with him. They would be besieged there. And it would seem that this was the end, because the Gog and the Magog devastate all forces that come before them. Nothing can stop them, as Allah had informed Prophet Isa. And this affirms for us, in case people would fall back into the same mistake of giving Prophet Isa supernatural powers till they elevate him to be God again. Allah shows the world the vulnerability of Prophet Isa. He cannot defeat them. He killed the Dajjal, but he isn't God, nor the Son of God. So it is when there is no hope left that Allah sends some insects that the Prophet ﷺ described like the larvae of the locusts that would find their way to the necks of the Gog and the Magog and bore into their necks, into their brains, and kill them. And they would just die like flies. And that would be their end. And Prophet Isa would rule the earth for some 40 years, completing his life, making Hajj. Prophet ﷺ described him making Hajj, and also restoring Islamic rule to the world. Again, Prophet Jesus ruling the world according to the Sharia. Again, when people hear this, Muslims are obsessed with ruling the world according to Sharia. They point their fingers, they raise objections, so much so that 22 states in the US, out of their 52 states, 22 of them legally banned Sharia. Of course, when the representatives of these states were asked, okay, so what is this Sharia that you're banning? They said, we're banning suicide bombing, we're banning terrorism. Because in their mind, Sharia means suicide bombing, terrorism, ISIS, and whatever else. This is Sharia. They don't realize that praying 5 times a day, that's Sharia. So when you ban Sharia, you're saying Muslims will not be allowed to pray 5 times a day, will not be allowed to fast in Ramadan, and so on and so forth. ignorance, sheer ignorance. But this is the reality. The Sharia is the law of God, the law of Allah, which is good for all times, all people, in all places. That is the reality. Wherever Muslims are able to apply it, it is their duty to apply it. Not to force it upon people. As a minority in a country of non-Muslims, we have foolish Muslims, calling for Sharia in the middle of Europe and creating this scare. We can't apply it unless we are the majority and the majority agree, then we can apply it. If the majority don't agree, even we're all Muslims, but the majority don't agree to apply Sharia, to try to apply it is to unleash bloodshed in the Ummah. Because Muslims will fight you. They have to be educated. The Ummah has to come to that understanding that the way that we deserve to govern ourselves is in accordance with the Sharia. That's what La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam means. This is what it means. So the story of the return of Isa is a reminder to us. That's why all of this should be taught to our children. They should know it. All of the details. They should be able to recount it so they can recount it to their children. Because all of it addresses and speaks to the need for Muslims to understand the deen. If we haven't understood it, then we will be overcome. We will fail. We will fail our children. We will fail our families. We will fail our nations. The only way for Muslims is to come back to Islam. And to come back to Islam, it requires knowledge of Islam. Not just emotion. Of course, we should be emotionally committed. But if all that drives us is emotion and we don't have knowledge, then we can end up like ISIS, killing Muslims in the name of Islam. That is the problem of emotion when it's not guided by the teachings of Islam. So this is the way forward. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring us back to His religion and to forgive our past failings and the failings of our relatives, our families, our nations. I ask Allah to keep us firmly on this path of Islam, to forgive our past ones, our lost ones, those who have died. Forgive them, O Allah. Forgive their sins. Make their graves gardens from paradise and not pits from hell. And I ask Allah to let us die, to leave this world with our last breath, saying La ilaha illallah.
أكبر. محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Dear strengthen your minds. استووا واعتدلوا وتواصوا صدقكم. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والفجر وليال عشر والشفع والوتر والليل إذا يسر هل في ذلك قسم لذي حجر ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بعاد إرم ذات العماد التي لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد وثمود الذين جابوا الصخر بالواد وفرعون ذي الأوتاد الذين طغوا في البلاد فأكثروا فيها الفساد فصب عليهم ربك سوط عذاب إن ربك لبالمرصاد فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن كلا بل لا تكرمون اليتيم ولا تحاضون على طعام المسكين وتأكلون التراث أكلا لما وتحبون المال حبا جما كلا إذا دكت الأرض دكا دكا وجاء ربك والملك صفا صفا وجيء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي فيومئذ لا يعذب عذابه أحد ولا يوثق وثاقه أحد يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, our program will continue after the Sunnah until 9:30. Then from 9:30 to 10 o'clock, we'll have a question and answer session, inshallah. We'll start, inshallah, right after the Sunnah. We'll give you 5-7 minutes. Finish the Sunnah, we'll start our program, inshallah.